Story 1. The Night Alyssa Met Santa. It was a cold December night in 2019 when the Lee family settled in for the evening. Their cozy Memphis home, decked out in holiday decorations, felt like a safe haven. Eight-year-old Alyssa, the youngest of the family, was playing in her upstairs bedroom, unaware that her world was about to be turned upside down. The Lees had recently installed a Ring camera in Alyssa's bedroom, hoping it would provide an extra layer of security while still keeping an eye on their children. What they didn't realize was that someone else had figured out how to use that camera for their own creepy purposes. As Alyssa played with her toys, she heard a strange noise. At first, it was just faint music, like a creepy lullaby playing softly in the background. Confused, she looked around the room, checking her toys and music player, but found nothing that could explain the sound. Then the green light on the Ring camera began to flash. Alyssa's heart raced as she realized someone was watching her. "Hello." A voice suddenly rang out from the camera. It was a man's voice, cold and distant. Alyssa froze, her toys slipping from her hands as she tried to identify the source of the voice. Who are you?" she stuttered, her voice shaking with fear. The man's voice laughed, a cold sound that sent shivers down her spine. "I'm your best friend. I'm Santa Claus," he said, his tone mocking and cruel. "Don't you want to be my best friend, Alyssa? I can give you anything you want." Alyssa's small body shook with fear. The girl wanted to scream, but the voice continued, now shouting racist insults at her, words an 8-year-old should never have to hear. "Call your mother," the man ordered. "Tell her I'm here. Tell her Santa is in your room." Terrified, Alyssa ran to the door, but she was too afraid to leave the room. The voice taunted her, urging her to smash things in her room, to do whatever she wanted because he was her best friend. But Alyssa didn't want to smash anything. She just wanted the voice to stop. Downstairs, the rest of the Lee family had no idea what was going on. It wasn't until Alyssa finally got the courage to run to her parents that they discovered the horror their daughter had just endured. When they checked the Ring camera, their blood ran cold. Someone had hacked into their security system, invaded the privacy of their home, their sanctuary. The thought that the stranger had been watching their daughter, whispering twisted things in her ear, was too much to bear. The Lees immediately disconnected the cameras, but the damage was done. The fear that someone could have been watching them for days or even weeks without their knowledge was devastating. That night, the Lees huddled together, too scared to sleep. Alyssa's parents tried to comfort her, but the image of the flickering blue light and the man's voice haunted her. And as they lay in bed, listening to the creaks and groans of the house, they couldn't help but wonder if the hacker was still out there, waiting to invade their lives again. Story 2. Voices from the Kitchen. The Kerselek family home is usually filled with the warm sounds of laughter and conversation, especially in the kitchen, where they spend most of their time together. Adam Kerselek, a devoted father, installed a ring camera in the kitchen a few months ago, thinking it would add a layer of security to their home. Little did he know, the decision would lead to a chilling encounter that would forever change their sense of security. One evening, as Adam was preparing dinner, his young daughter sat at the table, engrossed in her favorite TV show. The house was peaceful, the kind of peace that comes after a long day when everything is as expected. But that peace was about to be shattered. Adam stepped out of the kitchen for just a moment, leaving his daughter alone. As she watched TV, a voice suddenly broke the silence. "What are you watching?" the voice asked, its tone calm, almost friendly, but with a sense of intrusion that sent a shiver down her spine. She looked around, startled. The voice came from nowhere, or so it seemed. The room was empty, but the voice continued. "Hey, what show is that?" Kate asked again. The girl's heart began to beat faster. She knew she was alone, but someone was talking to her, someone she couldn't see. Adam returned to the kitchen, oblivious to the strange encounter his daughter was having. He went to the refrigerator, grabbing ingredients for dinner. When he opened the door, the voice spoke again, this time speaking directly to him. "What are you eating? Are you hungry?" Adam froze, his hand still on the refrigerator door. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the room for the source of the voice. His daughter looked up at him, her face pale with fear. "Daddy, who is it?" the girl whispered. The truth hit Adam like a punch in the gut. The voice came from the Ring camera he had installed only a few months ago. Someone had broken into their home, into their lives, and was now talking to them as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Adam's confusion quickly turned to anger. He moved closer to the camera, his heart pounding in his chest. "Who is this?" he asked, his voice shaking with fear and anger. The voice didn't answer right away. For a moment there was only silence, as if the intruder was relishing the power he held over the family. Then, in a mocking tone, the voice replied, "This is Ring. Who are you?" Without hesitation, Adam disabled the camera, yanking it from its perch on the wall. His hands shook as he tried to process what had just happened. How long had this stranger been watching them, eavesdropping on their conversation? And what else did he see? But that night, Adam couldn't sleep. He lay awake, haunted by the thought that someone had violated the sanctity of their home. The next day, he removed all the cameras in the house, determined to protect his family from any further intrusion. But the fear remained, a constant reminder that even in the safety of their own home. Story 3. Screaming in the Night. In a quiet neighborhood in Los Angeles, the night was silent and dark, the kind of night where even the slightest sound seemed to echo through the deserted streets. It was November 12, 2019, and most of the residents had long since gone to bed, their homes silent and safe. But around 11 p.m., the peace of the night was shattered by a terrifying scream. It pierced the air, cutting through the silence like a knife. A woman's scream, desperate and filled with fear, echoed throughout the neighborhood, waking the sleepers and sending chills down the spines of those who heard it. The Ring camera on one of the homes captured the scene. The footage showed a white car speeding down the street, its trunk open. From inside the trunk, the scream continued, fading as the car sped away. The video only captured a brief glimpse of the car before it disappeared into the night, leaving an eerie silence. Residents who heard the screams were stunned, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Some called the police, reporting that they believed it was a kidnapping. But by the time police arrived, the car was long gone, and there was no sign of the woman whose screams echoed through the night. The next morning, the Ring footage was reviewed by authorities, and the investigation was reopened. The Los Angeles Police Department scoured the area, looking for any clues that might lead them to the car or the woman. A witness came forward, claiming to have heard a man's voice say, "I'm sorry," just before the car sped away. But despite their efforts, police found nothing. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation stalled. The footage was shared online, and the neighborhood struggled with the horror of what they had witnessed. Was it a kidnapping? Was the woman still alive? Or had something even more sinister happened? Over time, the case faded from the headlines, but for those who heard the scream, it was never forgotten. The unanswered questions remained, haunting the neighborhood like a ghost. And on quiet nights, when the wind howled through the streets, some swore they could still hear the desperate scream echoing in the distance, a chilling reminder of the night when darkness fell and a woman's life was stolen. Story 4. The Masked Woman. In the middle of the night, a Ring camera captured a scene that left its owner terrified and questioning the safety of her own home. The footage, recorded around 3 a.m., started out innocuous enough. A quiet street, a dark house, and the gentle hum of the night. But as the minutes ticked by, something, or rather someone, appeared on the screen. A woman, her face partially obscured by a mask, approached the house. She moved slowly, cautiously, as if she knew exactly what she was doing. Her eyes were fixed on the door, but before she could reach it, she noticed the doorbell camera, and that's when things got worse. The woman stopped, looking directly into the camera. For nearly 40 seconds, she didn't move, her eyes staring into the lens as if she were trying to see through it, to the viewer on the other side. Her gaze was unsettling, cold, and emotionless. The kind of gaze that would send chills down your spine and give you goosebumps. In the midst of her terrifying stare, the woman made a strange move. She pulled out a pair of goggles-like glasses and put them on. Then she adjusted her mask, pulling it higher over her nose and mouth as if she were preparing for something. Her identity, already obscured, was now completely hidden. But she wasn't done yet. Before leaving, the woman made some strange hand gestures to the camera, movements that seemed deliberate, almost ritualistic. Then, without a word, she turned and walked away, but she didn't leave the grounds. Instead, she paced back and forth in front of the house, her silhouette a blur against the night sky. The camera continued to record until it automatically cut off at the second minute, but the story didn't end there. According to neighbors, the woman was seen standing outside the house for another 20 to 30 minutes, her presence a silent menace in the darkness. What she was waiting for, or why she had come, no one could say. The homeowner, after reviewing the footage, had more questions than answers. Who was this woman? Why had she come to his house in the middle of the night, wearing a mask and deliberately concealing her identity? And what did she intend to do if she did get in? The footage was shared with the police, but without any identifying features, there was little they could do. The woman's motives remained a mystery, her intentions unknown. But for the homeowner, the fear was all too real. Every creak in the house, every shadow in the night, was a reminder that she could return at any moment. And if she did, he knew she wouldn't come unprepared. Story 5. The Woman with the Knife. The night was still when the Ring camera captured the woman standing at the front door. She appeared out of nowhere, as if she had emerged from the darkness itself. There was something strange about her, something that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand. She stood in the doorway for what seemed like an eternity, her body rigid, her movements slow and deliberate. Her face, partially obscured by the porch light, was twisted into an uneasy smile. But it wasn't the smile that sent shivers down the homeowner's spine when he reviewed the footage the next morning. It was the large kitchen knife she held in her hand. The woman seemed confused at first, her eyes darting around the front of the house as if she were searching for something or someone. She glanced over her shoulder several times, her movements shaky and paranoid. But what was most disturbing was the way she looked down at the knife, as if it were an extension of herself, something she was all too familiar with. For 2 minutes, the woman stood there, her hand clenched around the hilt. She didn't knock, she didn't call. She just stood there, her eyes darting from the knife to the door, then back again. The longer she stood there, the more terrifying her presence became. The homeowner, a friend of the Reddit user who posted the footage, was incredulous when he saw the video. The woman wasn't trying to enter the house, wasn't trying to break in. But the fact that she was standing there in the middle of the night holding a knife was enough to send shivers down his spine. The widely accepted theory is that the woman may have suffered from dementia or some other illness that caused her to behave in such a strange way. But even if that were true, it doesn't make the footage any less terrifying. The idea that someone, anyone, could show up at your door in the middle of the night, armed and unstable, is a fear that lingers long after the video ends. The woman was never identified, and the incident was ruled an unfortunate mistake. But the homeowner couldn't shake the feeling that there was something darker going on, something the cameras weren't picking up. And every time he heard a noise in the night, he couldn't help but wonder if she would return, knife in hand, ready to finish what she'd started.